Good evening, and here are today's Tropics for October 17th, 2019. Please note I'm not a meteorologist, and this video is just collecting my thoughts and opinions about the storm I'm talking about. And for any decision making, please consult the National Hurricane Center, your local officials, or your National Weather Service office. Now we're looking at potential tropical cyclone 16 today. You can see on the last visible images of the day that there isn't elongated low in this region. It's right now sheared and lopsided, as we'll probably be seeing for the rest of its life. And it's not too well organized right now. It's obviously not a tropical cyclone, but there are warnings up, and that's why it's a potential tropical cyclone. And yeah, you're seeing a bit more of this thunderstorm activity to the east. That's because of the upper divergence. As you can see better on here, this thunderstorm is getting sheared off here and leaving the elongated low exposed. But there is a bit more rising air due to upper divergence from the upper level divergence, which allows for that rising air and increased thunderstorm activity. This also allows for pressure falls at the surface. So you do tend to see weak storms that are going to shear like this get kind of attracted to this convection and move down shear, or in this case northeast, into that convection. So we'll likely see that happen and the system come onto the coast quicker than you'd usually think if it were just moving normally. You can see here in the water vapor imagery that it is there. This upper trough is due to this upper low to the northeast or northwest in over Texas. Yeah, and then here you can see that upper trough axis that is over, pretty much over 16 right now, which isn't really helping the activity, convective activity over low right now, and it's contributing to that westerly flow, which is shearing it. But over here you can see there's a bit more divergence at the upper levels again, which does foster that thunderstorm activity, and it's very clear here. And here then there's a jet which will be partially ventilating 16 later, but not quite yet. It's too far south at this point. Until recently there was a reconnaissance mission going into this storm. It didn't really find too much that we didn't know. There are some westerly winds, but it's not like it's a very well organized cyclone. It's elongated, and you're not seeing a well-defined wind shift like you'd see in a more well-defined tropical cyclone. So right now it's not quite, but it's likely to intensify a bit and become one ultimately. And you can see that there is something there given by the estimated sea level pressure. You can see as it gets closer to that low, you see the pressure fall. So there's an identifiable feature, but it's weak and obviously disorganized. Looking at the GFS analysis rate for 18Z today, since a few hours ago, you can see that upper trough here that is pushing that westerly wind in, westerly flow into 16, and also the jet to the north. So right now 16 is generally isolated from this jet, so it's not getting the upper divergence, but it's also not getting completely sheared like it would if it were under this. It's not well organized, as you can see there. The area of low pressure is pretty elongated, so it's not well organized yet, but it's pretty much in the best shape it will be, kind of. It's not quite that lopsided yet. There is a lot of moisture that is still to the west of it, but you can see the bulk of it is east of the system, and there is some dry air that will be moving into 16 soon. You can see 24 hours from now, it's already south of Louisiana here, which is pretty surprising if it were moving just if we're just moving constantly like you usually see with stronger storms. But this isn't true for 16. It's likely to have its center reforming over further northeast where more of that moisture is, and thus more of the thunderstorms, which can help lower the pressure. So it does make sense once you factor that in. And as you can see, partially due to shear and partially due to dry air, there's little to nothing on the west side, but on the east side there's a lot of stronger wind. So we're having a lot of almost hurricane force gusts at this point in the forecast. And this is partially due to that shear from the upper trough, and also part of that partially due to dry air kind of suppressing any convection and thus winds being brought down closer to the surface. As you can see, a lot of that stronger wind is under this higher moisture content, which is allowing for thunderstorm activity and higher winds. So it's not going to be like well organized, and you're not going to see a lot of impacts closer center. It's mostly impacts further to this east and southeast. So this is Saturday morning. This is when the GFS predicts landfall on the Florida Panhandle. As you can see, again, there's not much on the west side, but there are a lot of gusty winds on the southeast side, and a lot of the moisture is displaced off of the low, so it looks less tropical at this point, but it is still going to have impacts even though it is weak and generally lopsided and disorganized. Looking at the official NHC cone, it is expected to move quickly into the Florida Panhandle by Saturday morning. There are tropical storm warnings and watches up for Louisiana, Alabama, and Florida coasts, mostly on the northern Florida coast. But wind in this case isn't really the main threat, it's mostly the water. There's a storm surge warning for a lot of the Big Bend area because you're having a system that is moving to the northeast and being lopsided to the east, and also being broad, pushing a lot of water into this region. And given the geography of it, it's kind of like a bowl. That's why they call it Big Bend. You're getting a lot of water in here that can't really escape, so that means it's going to push up against the shore, so that is storm surge, and it looks like there's going to be quite a bit of it for a weaker system like this. So if you live in this region, just be aware of that storm surge. Despite the weak system, the way that it's coming in is allowing for a lot more of that surge, which could cause flooding if you're near the coast. So yeah, the main threat of this system isn't really that wind, but it's more the water as it comes into Florida. Anyway, that's about it for tonight. If you have any feedback, I'd be happy to hear it, and thanks for watching.